Nawrocki, Karol Nawrocki. So he's the new president of Poland, and he's been backing off from all this insanity. There's been somewhere up to 10,000 Poles have died in this conflict. 2,000 were identified out of the 70,000 corpses, 70,000 plus corpses left behind by the Ukrainian forces in Kursk alone. Now that sank in. So the Poles have been backing off from this insanity. So here comes Tusk. He's got to get the pressure back on. They're screaming that Russians have just launched a wave of drones that were taken down into Ukraine. Why would Russia do that all of a sudden too, and in not comprehensible targets? I guess they're just flying around waiting to be taken out. We don't know. The Minister of Defense in Poland is trying to calm things down, but Tusk is screaming and running around like the madman, or the whore that he is. Ursula's little strumpet. So you get this effect that slight chaos effect. They're screaming about Article 4, Article 5. Article 4 basically allows you to set up your coalitions of the willing to start a war, and when all of NATO doesn't want to. And Article 5 on this, so I guess they'll have consultations. Of course, there's no proof. Two, the Russian Ministry of Defense said, by all means, let's have some consultations and discuss what happened. And three, something to consider. A month ago, the U.S. started mass manufacturing copies of Shahid drones, the Iranian ones. The Garans, which started with the Iranians, have gone several generations forward. They're bigger, they're faster. There's even some that have turbine engines on them. So they can go and jet engines on them. So they can go much higher, much further, and carry much more weight. But the U.S. A month ago, and this was in the papers, you can look it up, started manufacturing their drones, which are basically an exact copy of the Iranian Shahid drones. So quite easily, you could have had these drones, if there were actually even drones, you could have had these drones being American drones flying in. Because why would Russia suddenly launch drones without apparent any targets? And just enough quantity say that it's not just one or two that accidentally flew over the border, but somewhere deeper into Poland there, and they were there to get shot down. Yeah, okay. Now, if you want a black swan, there you go, black swan. The U.S. needs to load off this war onto the Europeans because it wants to get busy with everyone else. Starting with Venezuela, it has a whole list: Venezuela, Panama, Greenland. Well, that Greenland's exactly going to be a very long thing with 56,000 residents. Those whose children haven't been stolen by the Danes. Which, by the way, there is actually a parenting test that is done before people are allowed to before mothers give birth. And if they don't score high enough on their parenting test, their children are confiscated by the Danish state. At least this is in Greenland. I don't know if it actually has something like that in Denmark. Confiscate, I don't know, given to other parents to raise the kids, but this is barbaric, insane, like barbaric. So much for democracy of Greenland under Danish rule. But I don't think it's going to have much better history if it comes under the U.S. rule, considering what the U.S. did multiple times to the Indians. I mean, come on. The United States was practicing forced and/or talked into sterilization of American Indian women up to 1979. Let that sink in. Go look it up if you don't believe me. Somewhere between a fourth and half the women of childbearing age, starting at age 14, were sterilized in the U.S. Yep. Go look, figure. That's 1979, 40 years ago. Well, 45 years ago. Oh, yeah. So these are the people reading us lectures. The skeletons in their closet are so full that they're busting out. They don't need closets. They need store. They need warehouses for all the skeletons that they have. So, anyways, the U.S. is and then there's Iran. There's possibly Iraq if Iraq ever gets to kick the U.S. out of its territory finally. Then there's China, India, and Southeast Asia. All of this that we have right there. So that's that. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. So they need to up the ante. They need to up the pressure and get Poland back in line. War, war, war. 10,000 dead Poles isn't enough. We need to go to 400 or 200,000, maybe a million. Because the Anglo-Saxon, Germanic, French axis needs it. Not to say that they're not going to be next up on the chopping block. Well, the Romanians actually be next up on the chopping block, and the three Baltic midgets that spawned us the brave and genius Caius. Every time she opens her mouth, wonderful nuggets of knowledge and wisdom flow forth like rainbows out of the butts of unicorns that are flying across the sky to power your electricity. Oh, I mean, that's a green energy. So next we go to the one country that doesn't give a damn about international law because nothing applies to it. Wait. Yes, the U.S. So the second country that doesn't give a damn about international law because nothing applies to it, Israel. After today, actually, even to today, okay, beat me on the head with a baseball bat and I still will never understand how the hell Hamas trusted the Americans or the Israelis ever again after all the betrayals that Trump, and before that with Americans, before that even, but with Trump, with especially the Israelis have done constantly over the last couple of years, and even just the last year. So Trump wrote him a letter to Hamas. This is your last chance for negotiations. You really need the negotiation to show that these people are not bloodthirsty maniacs the way the American government loves to betray them. And AIPAC and the Israelis love to betray them at all times. They actually agreed on it. Let's have talks because we want to end this conflict, not get genocided by the psychopaths sitting in Tel Aviv, but or Jerusalem, wherever the hell they decide their capital is this week, but actually have peace. So the negotiation team, ding, ding, ding. Let me explain what a negotiation team is. For any of you older people who have ever watched the original Star Trek, right? Whenever they beamed down on a planet and you had somebody with a red shirt on, the security guys, you knew they were going to die, right? Somebody had to die in something. So he's a nobody character. And the moment they always had the red shirt on, the security, they were the dispensable victims for the plot to move on. So somebody from the security team was like, anybody negotiating with America, anybody negotiating with Israel is wearing a red shirt. Is wearing a red Star Trek security shirt. They are the disposable. They're going to get killed. Why? Because nobody from the side in the U.S. and particularly Israel it's hard to tell who owns whom. I think it's a symbiotic relationship of two parasites feeding off of each other. The closed loop of parasitical life. They've murdered countless negotiators that they are working with, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, Lebanon itself, Syria, and so on and so on. So they did a strike. They did a strike in Qatar, in Doha, Qatar's capital, in a residential area, on the negotiation team while they were sleeping. Of course, they like to kill people in their sleep. That's the easiest way to get them. And you can get their families too while you're at it. Okay, there's several elements that happened here. First of all, Qatar's military is pretty much a non-existent. But there's plenty of American and British bases there. So what could piece together? It looks like A, the Israelis flew through Syria and Iraq. B, the Americans turned off Qatar's anti-aircraft radars. C, and you can't make this crap up, a British fuel transporter took off, met the Israeli jets, refueled them, landed, and this is all from Qatar. And then the Israelis did their strike and flew back into Qatar. Now Qatar said that, oh yes, we reserved a right to strike back. Look, the Qatar leadership, just like the Saudi leadership and all that, are totally spineless. Just like the Jordanians, just like the Egyptians, they're absolutely all totally, absolutely spineless. Gee, I probably will never be able to go into Saudi Arabia after saying that. Oh well. But they are. I mean, that's the truth of it, is they are absolutely spineless people. Their money is in Washington, their money is in, or rather New York, their money is in London, their souls are right there where their cash is, and that's just how that is. But the Israelis struck, so at this point, I mean, if all the other previous murders of negotiation teams didn't get this through everybody's skulls, and they should have. They should have a long time ago. You don't negotiate with the Israelis because Netanyahu cannot be negotiated with. And since Netanyahu has no real position other than murderous extermination, death camps, direct bombings, genocide, all the best all the best plays right out of the Nazi handbook of Adolf Hitler and the rest of them. Burning, bombing, murdering, and putting them people into death camps where you can starve them. The only thing they haven't set up yet is the ovens. I'm sure those are probably coming. Or these days, it's mobile incendiary units. I'm sure that's coming next. So why not at this point? I mean, they can do whatever they want. Nobody particularly will say anything to them. But the reality is, the Israeli economy is in a mess. It is horribly damaged. They are rounding up more reservists who now are no longer the patriotic guys that were flying in from all over the world like they were back in after October 7th. People were flying in, were going to serve. No, these guys are now flying out. They're running in every direction they can, refusing to show up. Suicide rates are up. I guess shooting kids, sniper shots in the head for little kids. Sometimes if you have, some of those people actually have consciousness, and that conscience starts nagging at them and they wind up whacking themselves. Which, by the way, while we're at it, interestingly enough, SS, just for people who don't know, the SS was a pan-European army. Every nationality had an SS. There was even an SS division for Russians. It never got above a brigade, but it actually existed. There's no point in denying that. But the German SS had a very high level of suicide, self-deletion, which is why the Germans switched over into death camps. So you could do it better, faster, and you didn't have to have your SS men that still had some conscience in their souls whack themselves from after they've looked into a child's eyes and shot that child. I guess if you have any humanity, even spark humanity, that starts to really eat at you. So they had a very high suicide rate in the SS, the German SS. Now the Lithuanian SS and the Division Galicia, the Ukrainian SS, oh, and the Croatians too, while we're at it, were just fine and dandy, mass murdering with glee, shooting, massacring. I mean, the Lithuanians were so good at it. By the way, the Lithuanian rifles were Lenin's top crack unit during the Russian Civil War. And after that, they went back to Lithuania, and some of the younger ones and the kids of the other ones formed the Lithuanian SS division. So they were so good at it, Hitler sent them, the Jews, out of, and not just the Jews, the politically inappropriate people out of Berlin to mass murder. The Croats, plenty of archival photographs of them when they get drunk. They were taking Serbs or Jews or whomever out of the concentration camps and cutting them in half with a handsaw. Quite literally, cutting them in half with a handsaw. A couple of guys hold the person down, the other one starts sawing them. I mean, the level of derangement. But then again, a Catholic priest, I do not remember his name at the moment, was running one of the concentration camps in Croatia and had a jar full of eyeballs that he personally gouged out. When you really start reading some of the things that these people were doing, The Italians and even the German SS were in shock for what the Croats were doing, or what the Western Ukrainians were doing, or the Lithuanians. So these are very disgusting, deranged people. So there you go. Anyways, the only way for Hamas, for Hezbollah, any of these organizations to do anything is to make this war so costly that the Israelis finally feel the pain enough that they get rid of Netanyahu. I mean, that's realistically speaking. And they want to end the war. That's it. There's no negotiation with this government. That's obvious enough. Whether or not the next government is going to change policies, it's one of those hit and miss, because a lot of the Israeli politicians are psychopathic, genocidal maniacs these days, and they got their population pumped up pretty hard with 7th of October. I'm not going to go into how many people IDF killed in the Samson option and all that, but we'll just leave it at that. So there's that. And the U.S., the U.S. was shocked. Yeah, the U.S. knew all about it. I mean, let's not mince words here. What Netanyahu wants, Trump will be happy to give him and push his chair in for him. And maybe tongue lick his boots and shoes clean too while we're at it. And so, considering that Trump is fully surrounded by psychopathic Christian Zionists who want the end of the world, for that they need an ethnically pure Greater Israel and a third temple, ethnically and religiously pure. So for all those liberal Jews, atheist Jews, or Jews that don't fall into the right categories, like the ultra-Orthodox or pacifists, sorry guys, your day's up. It has to be a very certain brand for the Christian Zionists to supposedly get their rapture, which is, by the way, heretical. It has nothing to do with Christianity. But we'll go on from that. Going forward. Then we have Venezuela. Yeah, okay. Trump took out a boat, as I said before, 2,000, or about 1,000 miles, so about 1,600 kilometers away from the U.S. Yeah, they murdered people. Now they're threatening more and more and the thing is, they said, this is only the beginning. So now they're threatening more and more strikes of Venezuela. They're not going to get Maduro out that way. There is always a chance of something coming up internally. Now, we know that Venezuela started selling oil to China and started rearranging its infrastructure for China, for the Chinese market. And the U.S. is very heavily trying to get in there. Of course, Venezuela has big problems with that, because any tanker heading to China, the U.S. probably will block them in the Panama Canal. And the only way they're going to get there is to go around Africa. You don't go down to the tip of South America, because between the Atlantic and the Pacific and the Arctic coast, Antarctic coast, those aren't waters you want to go through. Anyways, we move on. And by the way, do understand there's going to be a war with Iran. I believe maybe by the end of this month, beginning of October. I don't think anything's changed on that scope, but we'll see. But again, this is what happens when you negotiate with the U.S. and its closest partners. Well, I mean, this is European negotiation tactics. Kill the negotiating team if you can. I mean, this is how it goes. This is modern European diplomacy, modern Western diplomacy 101. Kill the opposite negotiating team when you can. Of course, yeah, if you're an American right now and you're on part of some negotiating team, yeah, just in case, make sure your life insurance is paid up, and make sure you write that last letter to your wife, mother, kids, whatever, because Uncle Sam has painted a big old marker on your back and on your head. I mean, yeah. Witkoff, I suggest flying in with bodyguards, lots of them, because, again, your buddy Trump, through his owners Netanyahu, has made sure that you are going to have a target on your back, along with everybody else and any American diplomat. Congratulations. It goes around. I mean, that's what's going to happen. These people are going to go for revenge. Hamas, Hezbollah, and by the way, speaking of Hezbollah, so they finally pressured the Lebanese government, this joke of a government. I mean, really, it is is holding three ethnicities together. Well, okay, they're all the same ethnicity. It's holding Orthodox Christians, Shia Muslims, and Sunni Muslims together in somewhat in a balancing act that more or less keeps the peace. Now, Hezbollah is very well armed. The Lebanese army is barely a reserve. I mean, they make the American National Guard look like a professional crack combat team, right? I mean, these guys are a joke of a joke, or the butt of every other joke's joke. And they're going to be now, they've taken the threat from Trump and from the Israelis that if Lebanon doesn't disarm Hezbollah, it will be partitioned. So understand what we're saying here right now. The U.S. government, along with their Israeli co-owners, that parasitical circle of life, are threatening to chop up Lebanon, with Israel annexing part of it and ethnically cleansing it, of course. And I don't know what else they're going to do, given, I guess, chunk this to the Islamic Jihad that they set up in Syria. It's just, again, they're talking about a country that doesn't pose any threat to Israel. Reality speaking, I mean, they could have kept the peace even with Hezbollah. Now, they could have kept the peace, but the Israelis want greater Israel. So, as they keep telling us about it, the fanatics in the government. So they're looking at what? At chopping up and ethnically cleansing Lebanon. So to get this ball rolling, they got the Christian side to try to disarm Hezbollah. To agree, anyways, to try to disarm Hezbollah. It's going to be very interesting to see because they're outgunned and outnumbered. So you will get a civil war inside of little Lebanon before the Israelis come in and murder off most of the population. And Kushner, I guess, is going to build more seaside villas for wealthy Israelis or wealthy American investors. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like. Tell me if I'm wrong. Then, because nothing can be quite this fun and not have a third act, we've got Nepal, which is between China and India. So you had one political party that looked at China as an enemy, you had one political party that looked at India as an enemy, and you got the American political party that grew up in between all that thanks to Soros and 15,000 NGOs. They make the Georgians look conservative. Georgia only got up into 10,000 NGOs. 15,000 NGOs in that little mountain country. Think about that. 15,000. True, they have a population of almost 30 million. The Georgians have a population of 3 million. So it does look a hell of a lot worse on Georgia. But the West got so far in that little mountain area of Nepal that they were able to breed 15,000 NGOs. And these NGOs have just contributed to the downfall of the government. So now you've got an American CIA-backed regime that, by the way, the prime minister resigned. They tried to flee. The mob caught his wife and set her on fire. Boy, they like setting people on fire, all these American-backed NGOs. When they get rolling. It's all about democracy, by burning any of your opponents to death. That's how democracy works. Here's the democracy. So now you've got a government, a mountainous government between China and India that's an enemy to both. And with China and India now working toward some kind of partnership, deeper economic ties, with he wrapping his hand around the shoulders of Modi and saying, "Hey, don't worry, we got your back. We got the finances. Anything you lose from the Americans, we'll make it up for you." And that went a long way. Believe me, that went a very long way. So the Americans are now got this future terrorist training ground sitting between China and India. And sooner or later, there's going to have to be a choice for China and India what to do with Nepal. Probably, if it becomes a big enough threat to the both of them, it'll have an intervention, a very unpleasant intervention. That's what I'm thinking. We'll live and see. We'll live and see. But you know, anybody the American Maidan color revolution machine brings to power, almost always radical Nazis, Islamics, or some kind of other ethno-supremacist groups. That's what they bring to power. That's whose back they ride on. I mean, we see this also in Indonesia, where they're trying to overthrow the government. We see it in Cambodia, where they're trying to overthrow the government. In Thailand, where they're trying to overthrow the government. This is all America's fingerprints, plus its European vassals, all over the place. Just simply all over the place. In Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia got too prosperous. It needs to be sucked dry to keep the vampire going. And, that's how it is. We are the next victims. Europe is dying out. Southeast Asia has plenty of blood for the global vampire to suck on. Global vampire squid. It's got its tentacles stretching into Southeast Asia. God help those people. Because, Vietnam War and the insurgent in Cambodia, where there's still over 6 million mines laying around everywhere. People are still walking only in trails. You can't walk through the jungles without something blowing up and taking somebody's legs off. Yeah, that's a little legacy of the U.S. But I mean, hey, Agent Orange here and there too. Yeah, that sure as hell didn't help the Gene Fund. But hey, that's how the democracy wages war. That's the cost of democracy. To you, not to the democracy, of course. They're making money off of you. That's all about democracy, baby. Liberal democracy. That's what we got right now. This is the insane clown posse that we got riding. That's it for the day. As if that isn't enough, as if that isn't enough. I'm sometimes afraid to go to bed. I only sleep about 5, max 6 hours a night, and even then, a lot of times not even that much. And hell, I start getting phone calls at 7 or 8 in the morning. Hey, you got a comment on this? I'm like, what? Why can't these idiots? No, they're not idiots. Why can't these blood savage psychopaths and Neanderthals that are the Western elite and the people that back them, the let's go bomb somebody lobby, the psychopath morons that sit on the couch and watch Fox or watch CNN and all these, or BBC or Sky, Deutsche Welle, and they're like, oh, we're bombing somebody. We are very important today because we kill civilians, we bomb somebody. Woo, democracy! Morons. And by the way, there's been statistical analysis done on the 11 candidates that have died in Westphalia, 7 of whom belong to the AFD. And the results were impossible statistically that this many people would die within a 2-week period before elections. Judge it for yourself if you believe it or not, but that's how it is. And with that, folks, have a good night and God bless. And before I forget, because I always do, because I'm never good at this, but please do subscribe, do share. If you'd like to support my work, my Bitcoin wallet is in the description. By all means, any donations I be very grateful for. But at minimum, just please share this video and let the channel grow. God bless. Oh, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and it's just not fair. Today is the 10th of September, and from waking moment today, it's just been hop, hop, jump, jump, because nobody will let you sleep a normal night's sleep without doing something to screw things up in this world. And boy, do we have some themes. Let's go north to south. So, Poland reported that Russian drones flew into Poland, like waves of drones, while the usual attacks have been on the Ukrainian infrastructure. Russia's the only country in the world that could launch 400 or 500 missiles, drones, and aerial bombardment platforms, and the Ukrainians have 2 people killed. If the Ukrainians, by the way, shelled the crap out of Donetsk, supposedly try to hit military targets. Well, I don't know about the military targets. Yeah, that looks a little better. It looks like a black eye from the screen, the computer screen. I don't know about the military targets, but they did kill about 20 civilians and injured dozens more. That they did do, very actively, including Storm Shadow missiles. So in other words, the British were responsible. and scalps, and the French were responsible for more murder of Russian civilians. Let's not mince words on this, since both countries take their part of making those missiles fly. So, yeah, so Tusk, Mr. I want war because I'm an animal of van der Leyen, one of her little minions. He's been running ahead of the pack screaming, this is war, the Russians have attacked us. Because he really wants war. Yeah, but well, he wants whatever his mistress wants, and the EU in general want. So he's running up and down screaming, okay, this is war. No big surprise there. Uh, Novarisk, I think is his name. I'm butchering his name. Let me take a look.